Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this, the first annual bracket breakdown. We're going to preview some of the strongest contenders for March Badness 2026. I am joined today by Senator Bill Stanley, also known as the Virginia Senate's resident poet laureate and funny guy. Bill, you have been in the Senate for a while. Never before have we gotten together, established the four conferences, and broken down the lunacy that comes out of Richmond, but we're doing that this year. Are you as excited as I am for barn jacket and tie season?
I'm telling you right, Tom, I could not pass up the offer to be a part of this. An amazing thing that we're doing here. We're going to do, March Madness as March Badness, and we're going to make sure that all the voters know, every Virginian knows exactly what's going on in the Virginia General Assembly in the 2026 session when you've got the House in Democrat control, the Senate in Democrat control, and the governor's mansion. It's pure mayhem. What you and I just witnessed here, we're going to go over with the voters and the fans and the Virginia citizens, is a jewelry store smash and grab. Political jewelry store smash and grab. They popped the top, they grabbed the jewels of Virginia, and they took off outside the door, and we're left with what's left. And we're going to talk about it in some of these bad bills, but I'm so glad to be here. I think everybody needs to know, play along, and see what happens.
Let's break down some of the overarching trends that we saw this Virginia General Assembly session. You had a House of Delegates with nearly a supermajority of Democrats. You've got a state Senate, and I'll let you speak to that in a moment, that's got a 21-19 Democrat majority, but they vote as a block so they can do anything they want there. You've got a Democrat lieutenant governor. You got a Democrat governor, and yet we left Richmond last week. You had one job. Do we have a budget yet, Senator Stanley?
We do not. Delegate Garrett, and there is a simple reason why. These guys were so focused on their liberal agenda. They were so focused on their bad bills. They were so focused on not getting caught and ramming through bad ideas that are going to be bad things for Virginians all over the Commonwealth. That's what their focus was. And then they broke down because they wanted to tax people even more. And there's a $2 billion budget shortfall difference delta between the House and Senate budget versions that they're going to try to make up. They're trying to grab as much money as they can from you, the Virginian, from every small business in Virginia, from every big business in Virginia. They're going to drive them out of the Commonwealth of Virginia, trying to fill the coffers to pay for their special programs. Guess what? It's going to cause Virginia to be number 50 when it comes to best places to do business. Right now, we're number 3 or 4. We're going to see quite a drop, and it's all because of them. We've got no budget. They've got another special session coming, and we're just going to see how much money they spend. And we've got to pay attention of what they put in that budget that's going to really shock people that they couldn't get past this year in the Virginia General Assembly while the public was watching.
Senator Stanley, you make a good point. There's a $2 billion delta between the House and Democrat expenditure plans. But let me put a finer point on that, folks. This is coming on the heels of a $2.7 billion Glenn Youngkin surplus, right? So we've netted about $5 billion in the wrong direction because, everything's a good idea when you're paying for it with other people's money. So no budget. You had one job. And Senator Stanley, the overarching theme in the election cycle in 2025 was affordability. And I kept hearing a nagging voice in my head throughout the session. I think it was Inigo Montoya from the cult classic, The Princess Bride. Affordability. I do not think that means what you think that it means.
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Did you see the same thing over on the Senate side of the building, Bill? Did they talk a lot about affordability while making everything more expensive, or was that just a House problem?
No, it was a Senate problem as well. I mean, they'd say, we want to make your electric bills more affordable. Then they joined Reggie again, which will shoot your electric bill monthly up by hundreds of dollars. They put the stressor back on green energy, taking away from fossil fuels, which will send your electric bills through the roof. That's just the beginning. Then they proposed over 50 new taxes to tax you, the individual. We're going to go over some of them. Unbelievable that they had the gall to do that at the same time that they told the voters just in November, it's all about affordability, which demonstrates that what they say is not always what they mean.
It is mind-numbing what happened. And one of the things that disappoints me, but we're going to take care of that with March Badness, is the media's inability to tell the breadth and scope of the stupid ideas coming out of Richmond. That's why we have March Badness. That's why in just a few short weeks, we will award the first ever Golden Turd Cup to the patron whose bill is chosen by you, the viewers, who are going to be allowed to vote. And yes, we will require one person, one vote, and voter ID, because, you know, those things make sense. And we're going to crown the worst bill in Virginia for 2026. So much competition. 64 team field, going to go, or 64 bill field, going to go over sort of the format here very quickly. There are 4 conferences. You've heard them referred to as the Power Four in some other sports, but in the sport of legislating in Virginia, these are the Power Four conferences. You have, and I think this is going to be the front runner, the House Democrat Nova Conference. That is Northern Virginia House Democrats. You have the House Democrat Rova Conference. That is rest of Virginia House Democrats. Excuse me. Then you have, and this is a strong, strong conference, you have the Senate of Virginia Nova Conference and the Senate of Virginia Rova Conference. This is Democrat bills from the Senate Nova, Democrat bills from the Senate Rova. These are also going to be the 4 regions. We're going to seed the teams 1 through 16, understanding that a House bill may travel, may get a road game to play a higher seed. For example, if a House Rova Democrat bill is a lower seed, it might travel to Senate Nova for a first round game. So much there, Senator Stanley. We are narrowing the field down from well over 100 contenders of ridiculous bills. There are going to be some bad bills left out. Bubble watch right now is something that we're all doing, sort of scratching our heads, wondering if certain teams, certain bills will make the field. But Senator Stanley, today with you, I want to talk about 2 things. Number one, our favorite 4, that is 4 strong bills to win the coveted Golden Turd for worst bill of the year in March Badness. And also maybe a dark horse bill from each of our sides, the Senate and House perspective, a bill that maybe flew under the radar, that didn't get a lot of media attention, a bill that might have even escaped with a bipartisan majority, meaning like a Republican or 2 voted yes on it, and they can all defend the why. We want to talk about those, and then, wow, the biggest individual award in bad legislating of the year, the LVP award. Bill,
What's
you
that?
have a special name for the LVP award. That is what?
The least valuable player.
No. That,
No?
my friends, is the least Virginia patron. That is someone who totally doesn't understand the values, ideas, and liberty and freedom that inspired the founders to create Virginia, the place where 250 years ago America was born. So the LVP award goes to the least Virginia bill patron, the least Virginia patron. And you got some other awards. You talked about this off air, the Stanley, I can't recall, but maybe you're going to be giving the Stanley Steamer. Tell us more about the Stanley Steamer Award.
Yeah, if we're going with, a Poopy Award, the Brown Crown, we're talking about the Stanley Steamer, the stinkiest bill, the worst bill in the Commonwealth of Virginia, offered by a patron who knew nothing about what the bill wanted to do or did not want to do. They just presented the bill. It was so stinky, it didn't even make it out of committee. We're going to make that award this year by the time the brackets are finished.
Oh, my goodness, folks. There's so much to go over. There's so much to talk about, and we're glad you're here. Again, tune in over the coming weeks. This is going to be broadcast on Senator Stanley's Facebook, on my Facebook. You can find long-form stuff on YouTube. Tom Drops Bombs. My TikTok is Tom Garrett JR on TikTok. Facebook is Delegate Tom Garrett. We got caucus pages. We'll link those. Senator Stanley, you're going to be airing these as well. Can you give some social media areas where people can follow you, sir?
You can follow me on Senator Bill Stanley on Facebook, Bill Stanley at Twitter, and a bunch of other places that they've made for me that I have no idea what they are. So
that's the kind of government that we like. Small government, just So Bill, without further ado, we've talked about the LVP, the Golden Turd, aka the Stanley Steamer Trophy. But let's talk about what makes a great bad bill. In your estimation, what makes a really great bad bill?
Well, Tom, I talked about it a little earlier, but I think it's pretty simple. One, you've got a patron who is totally partisan, doesn't worry about what's good for all of Virginia, just worries about what's good for going on a brochure, making a liberal talking point, getting reelected. Those are the things that they think about first, and they only think about. They never put their constituents first. So first, you talk about the player that knows how to play the game, but plays it their way with their intent just to do something that benefits themselves or their liberal agenda. That's the first thing. Then you get an idea in their head. You get an idea, like a real liberal idea, like let's make all conservatives not be able to buy food at the grocery store, some kind of bill like that. And they go, oh, that's a great bill. And then they write it. And then they have a lawyer write it. They don't even write it. It comes back to them. They don't read it. They read the summary and they go to a committee and they present it, and they present it in a way that is exactly not what that bill is. It's something completely different. And then when they're called out on it by the legislators, usually Republican legislators sitting on the dais, we're usually outnumbered in these committees. Like in a committee of 15, it's nine Democrats, 5 Republicans. The Democrats on that side depend on us to call them out on these bad bills and these bad wordings. We've got a couple we're going to talk about today. And they go, I don't know. And they start repeating talking points rather than actually looking at their bill, reading their bill and saying, yeah, you got a point. What can we do to change it? They just want to push the bill through. And what they're depending on, the final point is they're always depending on their Democrat friends, either in the Senate or the House, at that committee or on that floor when the votes come up, to always back them. Because if they don't back them, what you see is with these bad legislators is that they then go and call them on the phone, text them on the phone, tell them, if you kill this bill, this horrible bad bill, which they may have voted against and killed it, then I'm going to kill all your bills in the House side or in the Senate side, the opposite side. And so every time a bad bill is killed and has been killed in the 2026 General Assembly session, what you've seen is 15 minutes later, the phone rings, they start talking. Next thing they do is they bring it back up for a vote, and then they vote it out of the chamber. It's amazing. And that is the hallmarks of a turd bill.
We look, I'll tell you what makes a great bad bill. I see a couple of things, Senator Stanley. I think the intangibles are there, the things that you can't really put your finger on. That is, okay, it's a bad bill, but maybe the patron has an Instagram or TikTok channel where they like to do cute little dances and giggle about things like affordability. That's an X factor, right? And so some of these patrons bring a certain gravitas to their bad bills, by their silly attempts at viral video making. That's something, right? And then you got a lot. There was a comedian who once famously said, you can't fix stupid. Another who said, here's your sign.
Here's your sign.
I understand that a lot of Virginia Democrats don't understand things like the First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, due process, the Confrontation Clause, Sixth Amendment rights. Obviously, the Second Amendment they loathe. I think they do kind of understand it and just hate it. But when a patron carries a bill because they don't understand the Constitution, I think that's a bad bill. It's the ones where they clearly do know that what they're doing is preempted by federal law, it's unconstitutional. The Supreme Court's already weighed in. So many of those this session where they did know better and they carried the bill anyway, sort of an Andrew Jackson mentality. The courts have made their ruling. Now let's see them enforce it. So that, along with the intangibles, how cutesy is your Instagram feed? Those are things that sort of differentiate. Bill, we got a lot of cognate bills, companion bills, where there's a bill on the House side that does something, and there's a bill on the Senate side that does something. I think those intangibles are going to be what differentiates those two bills that do ostensibly the same thing. Am I wrong there that maybe there's a certain panache that you can bring via a ridiculously silly or condescending or matriarchal, patriarchal Instagram feed that kind of makes that bad bill even worse? Is that fair to say?
No, I got to agree with you. I think that's the X factor. I think certainly social media is something that they put a lot of time into. They invest a lot of emotion into. They want the clicks, they want the likes, they want the shares. They're doing it for that reason and that reason only. And they really don't care about the legislative part. It's really about, how do I set myself up after 2 years to run for governor? We have seen actually House of Delegate members and members in the Senate who have been in the chamber for 1 or 2 years now running for lieutenant governor or attorney general or governor. So what it demonstrates is, and it's all on that side, is that they're not here for the people that voted them in. They're here for their own ambitions and their own futures. And that way, they don't think about these bills and how it applies to everyday Virginians when they write them. They're thinking about, what good TikTok video can I do that's going to get me more clicks, more likes, and more votes, and to the next level. It's a shameful way of doing it. It's not how we started 15 years ago when we came into this joint, but it's now the way. And what we're seeing is a lot younger House of Delegate member, Senate member. They're not learning the rules. They're not making the relationships. They're there as a platform to the next level that they aspire to. And they end up putting in bills that look great on a brochure, but in the end hurt Virginians.
Right, and I want to turn the spotlight on yourself and me for a moment, Senator Stanley. They say that politics is Hollywood for ugly people. Obviously not true in my case or yours, right? But there are a lot of people who I think see this as a pathway to celebrity. I will make news here by saying that I have absolutely no intention of, and go ahead and clip this, guys. no intention of running for anything higher anytime soon. In fact, I'm around at least until they redistrict me out, and because I'm good at my job. So we got to get rid of Garrett in 2031, unless, of course, they try to get a constitutional amendment to do a mid-decade redistricting in the House and Senate too, because the one for Congress works.
Right.
Senator Stanley, I know personally that a lot of people have asked you to run for a lot of things, Congress, Attorney General, for a lot of years. And yet you still toil in the obscurity of the Virginia Senate, and praise God you're there. This is not a stepping stone to you.
No, not at all. In fact, when the people who have elected me send me to Richmond, I'm there to do a job. I don't go to the cocktail parties. I don't go to the receptions. I work 14 hours a day. I work in the office. We work on the floor. We work in those committees till late hours in the evening. We go back home with my staff. I make them dinner, and we go over the bills for the next day and the strategies that we're going to have for the next couple of days. It's a job, but it seems like a lot of those that are getting elected love to be called delegate, love to be called senator, think that it makes them better than the people that they serve. And they walk around with their nose kind of up in the air like there's somebody, when in fact, you're no better than the person who voted for you. You're no worse either. And when you have that attitude, then you're not really thinking about anything else but yourself. And
I'll
that's the
tell you
problem.
what.
I have no intention of running for anything else. I'm blessed that my area has sent me to the Senate for 15 years. I'm grateful for that. But it's not a career. It's not a job for what they pay us. And we'll talk about that later too. It's not something that you should ever fall in love with. You should always treat it seriously. And unfortunately, Tom, they're not doing that here in the 2026 General Assembly session on the Democrat side.
It sort of has been a hallmark of mine as I've been honored by any number of Virginians with the opportunity to serve in several different capacities. I am loath to be called Delegate Garrett, Senator Garrett, Congressman Garrett. Can't stand it, because we are a nation of people founded on a construct that all people are created equal and endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights. So that title, of course, you want to raise your kids to be respectful and understand decorum, but that title does not make me, right? What I think of me and what my God thinks of me, not in that order, are really what make me. And it's really helped me, I think, be a better legislator, because there's nothing that I can be accused of, nothing that can be said about me that hasn't already happened, right? And here I sit, grateful and humbled to have the opportunity to serve. We're going to get into, folks, this is why you came, the field. What we're going to do is each pick 4 bills from our respective chambers. There might be a little bit of crossover that we think are real contenders for top seeds. And we're going to pick a dark horse bill. Senator Stanley, I'm going to go first, and I want to pick this bill first because this one sort of defies the convention here. There's a cognate. House Bill 881, Rip Sullivan, one of a very strong contingent of wacky Fairfax delegates, 18 of them. Longtime veteran legislator, nice guy, gas leaf blower ban. Now, I will give you that it's a local option. I'm going to tip my hand here. This is the proverbial camel's nose under the tent. Folks watching at home, there is an idea that once the camel gets his nose under the tent, sooner or later you will have an entire camel in your tent. So what this bill says is that localities of a certain size may, at their option, ban the possession of gas-powered leaf blowers. I will tell you that A, it's redundant. There are already noise ordinances that could be used to enforce this type of policy. And B, yeah, today it's this many people per square mile. It is very easy to carry a bill that reduces that number or that broadens it. But as soon as the government has enough power to take your gas-powered leaf blower, the only people with gas-powered leaf blowers will be the government. And Bill, special sort of tease here, Caleb from the Mower Store in Ridgeway, Virginia, will be presenting this bill should it make the horrible 64, the field of 64. He sells gas-powered leaf blowers. This affects him personally, Bill. But I would say that a bill with a strong possibility of a high seed coming out of the House side is House Bill 881, Rip Sullivan from Fairfax, gas-powered leaf blower ban. How about you? Do you have a similar bill that you think has potential to be a high seed?
Tom, I got it right here. Senate Bill 687. You see, it's a paragraph banning gas-powered leaf blowers in localities, brought by who I think the rookie of the year, our new Senator Saddam Salim from Fairfax City, replaced a moderate, good Senator Chap Peterson. He comes on board. Every single bill is either anti-ice, anti-gun, and now anti-gas-powered leaf blowers. And so we had a little discussion, a little debate in the local government Senate committee when he presented that bill. It was so horrible but he made certain admissions. He made an admission that he was starting with the gas-powered leaf blower, and next was the weed whacker, and then the tractor, then the farm equipment that makes your food. They were aiming to start here to then stop all gas-powered engine, motors, tools that would absolutely be used in farming down here in my area in Southside and Southwest Virginia. He actually admitted, yeah, we're starting here small, but we're going to keep going up. It got to the point in the Senate committee where I had Democrats look at me and say, oh, no. He said the quiet part out loud, basically. They voted to kill his bill. But I'm telling you right now, this is not only a contender for the Final Four in terms of some of the worst bills ever. It's a Stanley steamer, buddy. And you can go on my Facebook page, just like the Democrats, for clicks and see where I interrogate him about his very bad bill. And he makes those admissions. And so this is a rookie legislator who is really going to the left. He's making those brochure bills. And this is one of the stupid ones. And I got to tell you, Tom, I got hate mail here at my law office, the Stanley Law Group, yesterday, where somebody from Northern Virginia basically called me everything but an American in one page, which was very impressive. And their letter was well written. And I enjoy it, and I'm going to frame it. But that's how bad it is. They want to get rid of your gas-powered everything. They want lithium-ion batteries. They have no concept on what it takes for landscaping or agriculture. And this bill proves it. It was really a steamer. It was a stinker.
Look, let me go for a moment on Senator Saddam Salim. I've got a House bias. I admit that up front. This guy came to play. We were counting amendments to the Constitution that his bills would fly in the face of, and he really was thorough. Well, let me be clear about this. I love legal immigrants to the United States, which Senator Salim was. I think that if you scour out the soft Marxism, his story is one to be proud of and to be emulated. But really, when you're fleeing an impoverished nation with almost no human rights, when you get here, please don't try to turn us into that from which you fled. We got bills from this gentleman attacking the First Amendment, which is mind-numbing. You may be enjoined by a candidate for political office for allegedly defaming them within 30 days of an election. That means that if you're sitting in your underpants in your mom's basement and you make a really good meme, if the politician doesn't like it, they can go shop for any circuit court in Virginia and have the judge tell you to shut up based on an allegation without due process, thus silencing speech. He's after the First Amendment. What he's done on the Second Amendment, wow. And at one point he said, well, I grew up in Bangladesh, so I know something about guns. Google search Bangladesh gun laws. He grew up in Bangladesh, so he knows nothing about guns. And I would also point out that
let me just break in here for 1 second. I stopped him and I asked him, I said, have you ever fired a firearm before? Have you ever held one? And his answer was no. And so Senator Stewart and I invited him to come down to the country here in a closed setting, in a controlled setting, and we teach him the firearm safety, and teach him how to shoot one and see if he would enjoy it, so he'd have another perspective. He's never even shot a firearm. He admitted it on the floor. Bill and Steph got him on that one in conference committee. He's never even held a turkey gun in his hand. And here he is rewriting the laws for people like you and me and the people we represent.
I would point out that the land from whence he came suffered under the oppressive jackboot of the colonial British Empire for a couple of 100 years longer than did the United States, because they didn't have a Second Amendment. Folks, that's the First Amendment. The Second Amendment, he's got bills that go after Fourth Amendment due process, Sixth Amendment confrontation clause. Big fan of photo ticketing at stop signs and crosswalks and on your highways to generate revenue, so there's a Sixth Amendment confrontation clause problem, due process. This guy came to play. He is an absolute contender for the LVP award this year, but we got some really good ones in the House.
And let me just finish about Saddam Salim. He also knows how to throw elbows in the paint. We had a bill last year that would allow ADUs and tiny homes to be developed in localities. He took my bill, which was it, and he carried it over to the House. And then at some point, he told someone that the Speaker Don Scott, needed to grow a pair, and all his bills got killed. Now that guy's got chutzpah right there.
Well, I will tell you what, he'll get the feel and transition for the unopposed layup, but the Speaker will block your shot if you get too aggressive with him. You talked about Saddam Salim's bill on the gas-powered leaf blowers, and we've talked about just how hard he came as a rookie in the legislature in Virginia. But the House is not without its own superstars emerging. House Bill 1369 is the next one. I think this has got real probability for a high seed. And this, my friends, is a patron to keep your eyes on. Jessica Anderson replaced Amanda Batten down in Williamsburg. Amanda Batten was about as most common sense, sort of middle of the road, moderate Republican you could find. Here's what House Bill 1369 does, Bill. It says that where nonprofits are distributing money in accordance with government programs and goals, you may not investigate for fraud. That's right. You may
What?
not investigate for fraud. Senator Stanley, I think she saw Nick Shirley's expose on leering centers in Minnesota and the Feeding Our Future scandal, which runs to the tune of billions of tax dollars going into the pockets of people defrauding taxpayers through nonprofits, and said, well, we won't have that in Virginia. House Bill 1369, strong contender for the golden turd from a rookie, Jessica Anderson, out of the Williamsburg area. Yeah, let's see. We got caught with our hand in the cookie jar. How can we prevent that? Oh, I know. A bill that would prevent investigating the fraud. Gotta be a high speed, Senator Stanley. What do
Unbelievable.
you have
Yeah.
next in your
All right.
high speed bills?
I'm doing Senate Nova bracket here. It was a bill that actually even our former Senator Bill Carrico kind of called out the patron on, but she reiterated her position on this. It's Senate Bill 173, Senator Williams Graves. Now, actually, she's from Rova. She's from the eastern part of the state, down there in the Norfolk area. Basically, this bill, Senate Bill 173, bans carrying firearms into a hospital or a mental facility unless you're a uniformed officer on duty at the time, which means that if you're off duty, which policemen may not be wearing the uniform, but they're never off duty, you can't bring your firearm into the hospital. But the real crazy part of this bill, the real contender, why this is a strong contender for the Final Four, is this. If you are somebody who's on a TDO, a temporary detention order, you're a crazy person, you're having a mental breakdown. If you walk in with a firearm, you're allowed to come in to the hospital with it. That's exactly right. Bill Carrico says, hey, I think you made a mistake here. You didn't mean to have the person who's on the temporary restraining order, the temporary detention order, the crazy person, to have the firearm. And that senator said, no, I meant for that. So the cop who's off duty cannot carry the firearm into the hospital, but the person who has lost their marbles can walk in there proudly with a firearm, display it, keep it on them, their person during the examination, whatever. I got to tell you, it's the first pro-gun bill I've ever seen from a Democrat.
That is the insanity exception to gun-free zones, right? No one can bring a gun into this area unless you're crazy, in which case my bill will allow you to do so. That's sort of what we're seeing in Richmond, folks. Senator Stanley, thank you for bringing that to my attention. That's next level stuff there, and that is a ROVA senator, a Rest of Virginia senator, bringing that. By the way, Jessica Anderson, a ROVA delegate, Rip Sullivan, who we covered earlier, Nova, Fairfax County. This is going to transition me to another strong contender for LVP in the rookie class, Garrett McGuire. He's from the Alexandria, Arlington area. I mean, some of the bills he has. He argued on the floor the other day, Bill, that we've learned that you do not need a gun to fight a bad guy with a gun from the ROTC cadets at Old Dominion University. He did that with a straight face. And then he cited a Holocaust survivor professor at Virginia Tech who was murdered trying to stop a murderer from getting into his classroom, and said, there's another example of how to stand up to a shooter. He does not believe that a double Bronze Star recipient with 3 combat deployments should be allowed to defend himself at home the same way that he defended America abroad. He made that abundantly clear. Here's what his House Bill 1524 does. I call it the transport ban. They're going to be so kind as to grandfather your weapons in. You can keep those if you already own them, because they know they're going to run into a takings clause problem. But you can't leave the house with them. Here's what this bill does. It says that you may not travel with this laundry list of weapons, which has changed 4 or 5 times. We pointed out on the floor that at one point the Democrats had at least 3 different definitions going into the code the same year for what an assault firearm, assault rifle, assault weapon was, which makes it really hard for law enforcement and prosecutors and even defense attorneys. I suppose you just cherry pick the one that helps your client the most. But you can't travel on any road or street with it. but I'm not. That's the actual language. So I guess if you want to go rabbit hunting at your next door neighbor's farm, and you have a pistol grip on your semi-automatic Remington 1100 that has 3-shot capacity and is a ubiquitous hunting weapon, you're going to have to go off-road because you can't travel down any road, street, alleyway, etc. And that bill, folks, that bill passed. So that's strong. That's a really good anti-gun game. I think the fact that he argued that you should just defend people by allowing yourself to be shot to death as opposed to defend people with the 20 plus years of military training that earned you 2 Bronze Stars on 3 combat deployments and a firearm. That he made that argument with a straight face really speaks to those intangibles that we talked about and what makes a bad bill great bad bills. So
Listen, he got emotional about it too on the speech. We saw it on the floor. I mean, he was almost crying.
Oh my gosh! And the virtue signaling was intense. But again,
just take a bullet.
When you're citing a man who sacrificed his life because the government had not allowed him to defend, if you want to hear somebody passionately advocate on behalf of the Second Amendment, you can find videos of Holocaust survivors. You can look at what was done in Poland to resist the Nazi power. You can look at what's done by every single totalitarian regime before they become a totalitarian regime, which is to ensure that you disarm and silence anyone who might oppose your totalitarian ambitions. All of these things, but these folks have not learned from history. I really want to carry a bill next year to petition to revoke his right to be named Garrett. I take it as an affront. I'm a Garrett. I'm a proud Garrett, and I know Garrett's his first name and not last. But I don't know. I think his Garrett privileges need to be revoked. That's Garrett Anderson or Garrett McGuire. So now I've got 2 Nova bills out of my top 4 and Dark Horse and 1 Rova. Senator Stanley, where do you want to take us next? What do you think is another strong contender for a top seed?
Here's our bill right here. Senate Bill 26, a 2-pager proposed by Senator Carol Foy. She's out of Northern Virginia. So this is in the Nova Senate bracket, but it's a contender. I think it's another Final Four Stanley Steamer. It's a bill that she provides that says, it's a gun control bill, but this goes so far as to make sure that you can't buy a firearm in the Commonwealth of Virginia because it's called the Virginia Firearm Industry Standards of Responsible Conduct. But what it is, it actually creates civil liability for any manufacturer or any dealer, FFL, who sells a gun, makes a gun, sells a gun, and that gun is used in a crime or hurts somebody. Then it creates a civil right of action against the manufacturer and the gun dealer, even though they sold it lawfully, complied with every law. And in fact, the kicker on this thing, Tom, is this, subsection F, and I'm going to read it in its entirety. I asked the patron about it, and all I kept getting back were not an answer, but talking points of the whole bill and not this. But here's where it is. So you can sue if you are hurt by a gun that was lawfully sold to somebody. Here it is. To prevail in an action under this section, the party seeking relief is not required to demonstrate that the firearm industry member acted with the intent to engage in a public nuisance or otherwise cause harm to the public. So therefore, even though the manufacturer and the dealer did not mean to sell it to anybody to use it for bad purposes, you can still sue them. That is the epitome of stupidity, my friend. And that's why I'm telling you, that's going to be in the Final Four.
That is a strong contender, Senator Stanley. You make some good points there. Let's walk that dog down the trail for a moment if we are still allowed to hunt in Virginia. So by that logic, we could sue the spoon industry because we're a little portly. Maybe I eat Mexican food for lunch and you and I got to ride in a car together for a couple of hours. And the restaurant didn't intend to, make your ride unpleasant, but it is unpleasant. I think by that logic, you get a cause of action against the restaurant owner. We could do this all day, but the Lawful Commerce in Firearms federal law preempts this. This is one of those where the intangible exists, Senator Stanley. She had to know this was illegal. But boy, I'll bet it works really well in her district. I'm going to get to another bill, and then we're going to get to our dark horse bill. This is going to mean that we have, out of my 5, and we're giving a little spoiler alert here, 4 Nova Democrat House bills and 1 Rova Democrat House bill. So the next bill I want to get to is House Bill 978, veteran Northern Virginia lawmaker Vivian Watts making the simple complex since 1941. Delegate Watts' Bill 978, House Bill 978, would have put a tax on pet grooming, dog walking, home repair, digital services, landscaping. I could continue. I mean, this is a tax it all, let God sort it out bill. It is impressive in its scope and scale. You're going to cover, I think I know what you're going to cover next, Senator Stanley, but it sort of dovetails with House Bill 978. Reagan said, if it's succeeding, tax it. If it stops succeeding, regulate it. And if it stops even worse, then subsidize it or something to that effect. Boy, the Virginia Democrats have taken a lesson. Senator Stanley, your next bill out of your 5, your 4 plus a dark horse.
Let me tell you, of course, they put 51 tax proposals together. You're going to see a bunch of them in the budget when it comes back out. But this one took the cake. They were taxing fun. They were putting a tax on fun. In fact, probably would be taxing this very bracket, SB 129 from Adam Eben, who went on to become the marijuana czar, the king of the devil's lettuce, actually put in a bill that got pretty far that would put a 10% tax on fantasy sports. So if you were in your basement with your buddies and you wager a little bit, you were going to have to register with VDAX and pay a tax. We're going to tax
the dude that lost the office bracket, Senator Stanley, would be snitching on you to make sure you kicked over 10% of your winnings to Senator Stanley.
Or he snitched on the guy that made the bracket so he wouldn't have to pay out.
My gosh, who thinks of this stuff? So now, just in the last
the guy that's the marijuana czar now, that's who.
The weed czar. Yeah, it's insanity. So House Bill 978. By the way, we had a bill on creating a marijuana marketplace in Virginia, Senator Stanley. Another Nova Democrat. It was an impressive bill. But he came to the floor and he said, but don't worry about potential abuse because we're going to make someone show an ID to get into the store that sells the weed. And then they're going to have to show an ID again to buy the weed. So we've got not one, but 2 photo IDs. I don't know why the Democrats are obsessed with doper suppression, right? I'm kidding. But the point is that they talk so much about voter ID being voter suppression. They're okay with doper suppression. I told the patron on the floor, you can find the clip at Delegate Tom Garrett on Facebook or probably on TikTok. I don't even know. I said, look, if you will turn these weed stores into polling places, we might be able to reach a bipartisan consensus here just because the 2 ID provisions. Right. You got another bill, or am I up? I got my dark horse.
I'm gonna give you my final rundown, and let me tell you just what you said. Hypocrisy has a name, and we're seeing it here today. I'm gonna have a dark horse and a sleeper. My sleeper is HB 86. It's a House bill. I'm going over into your side of the aisle, in your side of the chamber. Laufer put a $30 tax on every mattress so that they could then take it to the landfill and rip it apart. So they put a tax on fun and fantasy sports tax. Now this is a tax on sleep. It's my sleeper. Give it a look. It might make it far into the Sweet 16. My final one, my dark horse, is of course SB 30. We talked about it a little bit. It's the budget bill. You're going to see a bunch of stuff stuck in there. But one of the things that's in the budget bill that was in both sides of the budget bill that will be coming out is one of the worst things ever. When we can't agree on a 2% increase to the salaries of our teachers or our state employees or our local employees or our sheriff's department who are woefully underpaid, our state police officers who need an increase in salary. And the best we ever do is maybe 5% in a year, but usually 1 to 2%. We, the General Assembly, put into SB 30 a 300%. That's right. 300% increase in pay for senators and House of Delegate members, going up to $50,000. Right now, kids, we get paid $18,000 a year. I think that's fine. It's a part-time job, but you do it on a full-time basis. But quite frankly, we should not be taking $3 to $4 million of taxpayer money when that money could go to our first responders, to our hospitals, to our schools, to modernize them. They, the Democrats, no Republican voted for it, all voted and put in the budget to give themselves a 300% raise because they need it, because they don't have another job. We all have jobs. They don't have jobs. So this is going to pay them over $50,000 a year. And Tom Garrett, I'm going to add to it, they also passed a bill that allows in their retirement determinations your per diem, that is the money they give you per day, a couple $100 to live in a hotel or every time you travel and for your food expenses, plus any time that you've been reimbursed will be added to the amount of money that you're going to be paid back in your retirement. It is the essence of gluttony. It is the essence of hubris and is the essence of greed. And let me tell you, that is going to be in the Final Four. But I got to tell you also, I think redistricting is a strong Final Four contender as
Oh,
well. But
wow.
those are
So,
my
folks,
sleepers and my dark horses for you, Tom. I'm
the
looking forward to this.
whole thing, we're going to have the first round matchups. The seeding should be out within about 24 to 48 hours of you watching this. We're going to break down each first round matchup, the 8-9s and the 1-16s. Who will be wearing Cinderella's stinky slipper that steps square into a pile of dog doo? We're going to find that out. We're going to do all that live. You're going to get to vote, but it culminates on the night of April 21st in Richmond. You will be able to buy seats to this event to support good, common sense, conservative legislation that restores freedom to the Commonwealth. Woo! This is a big deal. Senator Stanley, you hit on that redistricting bill. That might be the worst one of all. There's going to be a live vote on the night of April 21st. And depending upon how that polling goes, you got a ballot referendum that's written with language that is so ridiculously, illegally persuasive. Shall we restore fairness in Virginia? That you don't know how that's going to turn out. That's a big contender for the golden turd, the ultimate 2026 Stanley Steamer. I got a few more. We're going to do a dark horse and some sleepers. So House Bill 161 iGaming would put a casino in every 14-year-old boy's pocket, right? So this is the ability to play slots, to play poker, to play blackjack in real time, on your phone, in your pocket, everywhere. Now, 49% of men between 18 and 49 already have this, and this was Senator or Delegate Simon's rationale. Also, a Fairfax entry. Fairfax is so disproportionately represented in these bad bills. And his exact words were, look, it already exists, so we just need to tax it and regulate it. Now, I know some Republicans might have voted for this because it already exists. We just need to tax it and regulate it. Let me pose this question to you. Human trafficking already exists, as does, say, assault and battery, as does, I don't know, armed robbery. Shall we tax and regulate those since they already exist? It's the dark horse nature here is the sheer absurdity of the argument, and really, is that the best you can do? So that's a dark horse, just it already exists, so why not tax and regulate it? I don't know. And then, a series of sort of sleepers. HJ1, that's your abortion up till the baby exits entirely bill. That's a constitutional amendment. You've got the redistricting constitutional amendment that has a companion bill, House Bill 1384. That is where they literally pretended that 5 or 6 different laws never existed. Laws that say that there shall be no redistricting drawn to benefit one party, thrown out. Laws that say the congressional districts shall have geographical compactness and represent communities with shared interests, thrown out. Laws that govern how you do constitutional referendums that have been enacted and reenacted 5 times over the last 60 years. It's as if they never existed. So this is where they're going to amend the Constitution to amend the Constitution so that they can get what they want. And then they say, re-amend the Constitution. That's a big one. And then you got, golly Ned, felon voting rights, HJ2, would automatically restore the rights of felons to vote after they've served their sentence. Well, that, I could argue either side of that. I get it. But you get your right to vote back before you pay reparations to the person who you raped, before you pay the medical bills for the person who you maimed, etc. So our argument all along was, look, we can see this automatic rights restoration, but how about instead of just serving your term of incarceration, you pay the medical bills for the person you maimed or the woman that you raped, etc. Nah, not in Democrat land. So there's just so much, and we want you guys to chime in the comments, to follow Delegate Tom Garrett on Facebook, Tom Garrett Jr. on Twitter, Tom Drops Bombs on YouTube. There's so much stuff there. We're trying to get it in some order. Follow Senator Stanley. Follow the House Republican Caucus. Follow the Senate Republican Caucus. But most of all, watch these videos and vote. You get to choose. One person, one vote. And this is what it's all about. You can learn, share these things with your friends, share these things out of state. I'll bet you that this first ever March Badness tournament, Senator Stanley, gets copied by some people some places. What do you think?
Well, I think so. I think it's a great innovative idea and a way that we get every Virginian involved. There are millions of Virginians that fill out these brackets for March Madness and the basketball tournaments. And quite frankly, at the same time, they don't know what's going on in their state government and how their rights, how their laws are changing, how their rights are affected, and how their lives are going to change, both economically, personally, and otherwise. This is a way to get involved, engaged, and wake up and make sure that we're a part of the solution, not allowing the problem to continue because we're allowing people to get elected that aren't working for you. So I urge everybody, fill out your bracket, listen to the videos, have some fun with it, but also learn something and let's make changes. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors. You're going to enjoy this. We've enjoyed doing this. We're going to do it again. Thanks for listening.
Oh, my goodness. Senator Stanley, I could not think of a better person to do this in-depth analysis with you, and we're looking forward to unveiling the field of 64 in just a couple of short days, folks. We will cover every single first-round matchup very briefly in the field of 64. Tune in, like, share, subscribe. If you need to know how you can support Senator Stanley or myself, ask. We will put something in the link so you can send a donation. And why do those matter? Because we got outspent, 2 or 3 to 1 last cycle. Senator Stanley, it will be worse this coming cycle. We live in a world where the media tells us that all the big money corporate elites support Republicans. The truth couldn't be further from that. With the iGaming bill alone, almost $2.7 million to the Speaker and Governor Spanberger in the last 8 or 9 months. And yeah, they did sprinkle about $500,000. So there's a 5 to 1 margin just on that amongst some Republican leadership. Folks, we need you to get engaged, be loud, share, follow, like. Senator Stanley, any closing words or implorations for our amazing viewers?
This bracket's going to wake you up, and then you got to stay awake and get involved. Get engaged. Save Virginia. It's worth it.
Welcome to March Badness 2026. Stay tuned to see who wins the coveted Golden Turd.